Alright, we have a Kansai man arrested for defrauding his 35 girlfriends. And he would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for his 35 girlfriends. Whether it's making one too many Pokemon popsicle sticks or buying cigarettes with 120 smartphones at once, not knowing to quit while you are ahead is always a fatal flaw in the frauds of all kinds. This brings us to Takashi Miyagawa, a 39-year-old part-time worker of no fixed address, who was arrested for defrauding nearly 36 women that he pretended to be in serious relationships with. And we got a clip of this dude. In the most recent case, he told a 47-year-old woman that his birthday was on the 22nd of February, when in fact it was in the 13th of November. Other victims have come forward, such as a 40-year-old woman, whom he told his birthday was in July, and a 35-year-old who thought his birthday was in April. The current count of victims stands at 35, with a possibility of more who are accusing Miyagawa of cheating them out of a total of 100,000 yen, or in dollars that would be about $925. It doesn't seem that bad, but it's still a lot of money, I suppose. Made up of smaller birthday gifts of money and clothing. So I guess that was his racket. He would just accrue a lot of girlfriends and then get them to give him gifts. By our calculations, Miyagawa should now be 74 years old. Miyagawa reportedly met his victims while he was selling hydrogen water shower heads and other equipment through a multi-level marketing company. He started up romantic relationships, each one under the assumption that marriage was in the cards. However, as his web of lies began to dissolve, like the hydrogen molecules in his therapeutic water, the women all formed a victims association and reported him to the police last February. I didn't know that was something you could get reported to the police for, but I guess you can. Those who read the news online were filled with a conflicting mix of disgust and awe at the scope of Miyagawa's crimes and infidelity. People were saying things such as, "Can you imagine all that scheduling and planning to date 35 people at the same time?" I guess that's what they call an alpha male, right? Even if he sees one every day, there's still 5 more after a month. Isn't it easier to get a job at that point? It seems like he should be a better MLM salesman if he's such a smooth talker. I suppose if I was his lawyer, then I'd use the broken clock defense, suggesting that 35 women in 12 months, he must have told at least one his real birthday and thus not committed fraud in that particular instance. Good point, right? I wouldn't do much aside from slightly reducing his punishment, but when you've screwed over so many people that they can form an association against you, there's not a whole lot you can do except cry and hope for the best. So, too bad for that guy. We'll see what happens with him in the future. Got a next story here, which is about the reminder that you should never ask cops in Japan to shoot you. Let me explain. A man in Nagoya learns the obvious lesson the hard way. For most people, Sunday night is a quiet night as the weekend winds down and they get back into the mental mode necessary for the coming week of work or school. However, last Sunday around 10 p.m., a 47-year-old man in Nagoya's Kami-Nagoya neighborhood was spotted trying to light a fire inside a parking structure. A passerby noticed the flames of some sort and called the police, who dispatched an officer who quickly arrived on the scene, finding the suspect on the first floor of the building brandishing a knife. When he realized he'd been spotted, the suspect snarled at him, "Shoot me if you can," and then he retreated up to the higher floors. The officer gave chase, and when they reached the 3rd floor, the suspect stopped running and instead began advancing on the officer. The officer warned him to throw down his weapon, announcing, "If you don't drop the knife, I will shoot you." And undeterred, the suspect continued advancing. When a warning shot got fired at the suspect's feet, still didn't stop him, and the officer obliged the suspect's request, making good on his promise by putting a bullet in the man's lower abdomen. So here you can see the building where this incident took place. Following the shooting, the man was arrested on the spot, although instead of being taken to jail, he was transported to the hospital for medical treatment. He was conscious during the ambulance ride, and his life is no longer in danger. The incident is similar to one that took place in Osaka a few years ago, when a man advanced on officers while holding a knife and told them, "If you're going to shoot me, then do it already," and got a slug in the thigh for his tough talk. So remember, while Japanese police training includes something like Taiho Jutsu, or arresting martial arts techniques designed to subdue criminals in a low-impact, low-injury way, the cops will skip the grappling when someone is wielding a dangerous weapon, especially someone who's asking literally to get shot. So I guess that's an important thing to be keeping in mind. For this next story, the reason why I wanted to bring this one up is because it reminds me of some of the sub-stories in the game Judgment. You have to track down somebody who is actively engaged in the act of stealing panties. So here's the deal. A large amount of cheap lingerie was pilfered, and by most metrics, crime levels are very low in Japan, but unfortunately, so ordinary someone's get arrested for stealing panties wouldn't be all that noteworthy all in and of itself. Hey Emily, how you doing? However, an incident that took place in Nagoya was anything but ordinary, even by Japanese panty theft standards. So it's a standard, okay? Alright. Last week, the police arrested 25-year-old Koki Mori for breaking into a home in Moriyama Ward, the same part of the city in which Mori lives, and after gaining entry, Mori made off with 34 pairs of panties. One might expect that Mori's crime was a result of his infatuation with a woman who lived in the house, but according to police reports, the sole occupant of the home is a 37-year-old man. In another unexpected twist, Mori's accomplice in pulling off the panty raid, who has also been arrested, is a woman in her 20s. Dun dun dun! Okay, so the burglary happened back in November, but it wasn't until last week that the investigators arrested Mori and his partners in crime. There is no mistake that I entered the home and stole panties and other items, said Mori, and in search of his home turned up some 170 stolen items. It's unclear whether Mori knew that he was in a treasure trove of panties inside the man's house, either for his personal use, decorative purposes, or perhaps for guests. The panty stealing is still strong in Japan. I'm interested in why they suggested that maybe it was for his guests. Like, did he serve them panties when they came over? Actually, I don't really want to know. Or he'd already decided to rob the place and just happened to come across and decide to snag a few dozen pairs of panties during the heist. Ostensibly, the panties will be returned to the rightful owner once they're no longer needed as evidence in the case. It's likely, though, that after several months in the thieves' possession, the owner would rather just replace the lingerie, especially since, according to the police estimates, the total market value of the 34 pairs of panties is a mere 4,500 yen. So that's only $43. Yeah, burn them. Have a ritualistic panty burning session, where I'll take them out and we'll put them in a big pile. And that's all for this segment of Yakuza and Coffee. If you enjoyed these stories and would like to watch me share them live, I invite you to join me on my streams on Twitch. Details are in the description. Please drop a like and or sub if inclined, and I'll see you later in Kamurocho.